Hello and welcome to English Stories Princess. Today, I have a story that may feel quiet at first, but slowly, it will touch your heart. This story will help you learn English in a simple and natural way, with real emotions and clear sentences. So please listen carefully, feel the words, and follow the story step by step. Because this is not just a story. This is a life experience. Doctor. A girl was brought to a major hospital in the city who was 12 months pregnant, but the baby was not being born. When the doctor started the operation, there was a commotion in amazement. Doctor, this case seems to be more complicated than we thought. Assistant Dr. Ali was sweating profusely. Chief Surgeon took a deep breath, and while adjusting his glasses, said in a very calm and professional manner, "There is no need to panic, Dr. Ali. Such cases rarely come in medical history. Today you will all get a chance to learn a lot. Our first goal is to protect this girl and the life inside her. So, focus on the surgery and trust in Allah." Surgeon's words created a little peace in the tense atmosphere of the operation theater. But as soon as Surgeon started his work and made the first cut, his eyes widened in surprise and his hands stopped for a moment. He spontaneously uttered the word, "Allahu Akbar," from his mouth. When everyone present saw this scene, their hearts were shaken because what they saw was beyond all limits of human reason and medical science. This was not an ordinary surgery, but a terrible secret that shook everyone's souls. My name is Noor. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in the house of my uncle and daughter. My own parents had left this world very early, and I was not blessed with their love and shadow. My uncle and daughter never let me feel this deprivation, and raised me like their own daughters. My age was also very young when one day the girl made me sit next to her, and, while lovingly stroking my head, said, "No, daughter. You know how sick I am and a very good relationship has come, and we want you to do your duty first and be relieved of your duty. You are young, but I am sure that you are wise enough to take up household chores soon. Hasha is a very hard-working and noble person. His father has passed away, but his mother is a very good and loving woman. Above all, he has an elder sister, Noreen. She prays a lot. You will rule in the house of such good people." I bowed my head in shame and said in a low voice, "My dear, whatever you and Cha decide, I will accept it." The wedding preparations were done with great pomp and circumstance, and Noreen Baji and Amy Jan, Hasha's mother, were present in every ritual. I reached my new home in a red couple. Hasha was truly a very straightforward and loving person. He told me about the conditions of his home and the sacrifices of his sister on the first night. Noor. Along with my mother, my elder sister Noreen Baji has a very big place in my life. When our father passed away, I was very young. Amy Jan, I started getting sick. Then Noreen Baji took courage and took charge of the house. She washed and sewed people's clothes for my studies and household expenses. She sacrificed her happiness for our sake and did not even get married. Whatever I am today is because of their prayers and hard work. There was a strange devotion and kindness in Hasha's tone for his sister. I smiled and nodded. I shook her and assured her that I would consider Noreen Baji as my elder sister and mother and would follow her every word. The next morning, when I came out after making breakfast, I met my family in the lounge as usual. Mother hugged me lovingly and prayed for me. My daughter, Allah has sent you to be the beauty of this house. Mother's face was full of love and her words were comforting to the heart. Noreen Baji was sitting there on the sofa. She really looked like a very pious woman. She had a long tasbih in her hand, and her lips were constantly moving in prayer. She smiled slightly when she saw me and said, "Come, Noor, sit down. I have been praying for you and Hasha since morning. May Allah protect you from the evil eye and protect this house from every disaster." I went forward and kissed her hands. She read something on a cup of tea and blew on it and passed it to me. I drank it, considering it to be her love and goodness. However, after drinking the tea, I felt a strange heaviness, which I mistook for fatigue. The initial days were very good. Hasha took great care of me, and my mother also showered her love on me. At that time, Noreen Baji spent most of her time in her room praying, and I took care of all the household chores. My mother often told me stories of Noreen Baji's good deeds, how she prayed all night, and how Hasha got a good job because of her prayers. I also respected her. But with the passage of time, I started noticing some things in Noreen Baji's behavior that started to scare me from the inside. Often, when she was reciting tasbih, her eyes would be fixed on me. There was a strange cold gleam in her eyes, the meaning of which I could not understand. One day, I was calling for food in the kitchen and suddenly I realized that someone was staring at me continuously. I turned around and saw Noreen Baji standing at the kitchen door, and her eyes were fixed on me. I asked her nervously. She was shocked and a strange smile came on her face. "No, no. I was just looking at how good you look in our house. May Allah protect you from every evil eye." She read something again, and blew it at me and left from there. This was not just an incident, but it had become a habit of hers. Whenever she gave me something to eat or drink, she would keep reciting something for a long time. It seemed to be prayers and verses from the Quran, but I was not impressed by her prayers. An unknown horror was beginning to occur, as if they were not prayers, but something else. Once or twice I mentioned to my mother that I was afraid of Noreen Baji's eyes, but she laughed and dismissed my words and said, "She is a woman of Allah. There is healing in her eyes. Just you and I get her out of here." A few months after the wedding, I got hope, and when I got examined by the doctor, my joy knew no bounds. I came home and gave this good news to my mother and Hasha first. Hasha was overjoyed and hugged me and said, "Noor, you have made me the luckiest person in the world." Tears of joy came to my mother's eyes and she kissed my forehead and said, "May Allah keep your lap green forever, my daughter. Today you have completed my house." But when Noreen Baji received this news, her reaction was completely different from what I expected. Hasha happily said, "Baji, Mercy is coming to your house. You will feed this child like a grandmother. But I saw that Noreen Baji's face was, but I was not happy. From that day on, Noreen Baji took complete control of the kitchen and my food and drink. Even my mother did not stop her, thinking that she was the elder sister. Noreen Baji always kept water in a special bottle, on which she would read for hours and then forcefully make me drink that water. No, Betty, this is special water. Nowadays, there are many jealous people, and pregnant women are often cursed with the evil eye. This will keep your child safe. She would give me water and say, I would drink that water, but as soon as I drank it, a strange burning sensation started in my stomach, and my body would become drenched in sweat. My health started deteriorating day by day. There were circles around my eyes, and I started feeling extremely tired and drowsy all the time. It was as if all my strength was running out. One night, I could not bear it and I said, Hasha, I am very nervous about the water that Noreen Baji gave me. Whenever I drink that water, my chest starts burning and my life is starting to leave me. I feel like I am in this water. There is something that does not suit me. Please don't let me drink that water with the smell, don't let me drink it. As soon as I said this, Hasha, who always spoke to me with great affection, suddenly became serious. No, what are you talking about? Baji, you are a woman who prays to Hajjud and worships Allah. She recites Quranic verses so diligently for the good of you and the child, but you are committing a sin by doubting their goodness. Even my mother says that there is great healing in Baji's smell. Stop talking like this. Pregnant women think such strange thoughts anyway. Hasha's manner was gentle, but there was a hardness in it that she was making a mistake against her sister. I couldn't hear a word. I tried to explain it further. I'm not doubting, it's just that my health is getting worse, but she dismissed my words as hormonal changes. I became helpless in the face of my screams and my mother's blind faith, and continued to drink the same poisonous water every day. As the months of my pregnancy progressed, strange and terrible changes began to occur in my health. My body began to swell badly, and my hands and feet were so swollen that I could not step on the ground. My stomach had grown unusually large, and I always felt as if a fire was burning inside me. 9 months had passed, but I had not started to menstruate. Mother began to worry, and a sense of unease spread in the house. When the women of the neighborhood came to see me, they would say all sorts of things after seeing my big belly and yellowing face. Oh God, what kind of condition has this become? It has been more than 9 months of poor thing and the baby is not being born, one woman said with a frown, the other whispered, Oh no, I feel like it is something else. Look at her face, how terrible it has become. If there is a shadow of something bad on her, then Noreen Baji, who was standing nearby and was reciting Tasbih, immediately supported this and said while taking Jer essence, Mom and sister, I am also afraid of the same thing. I have been reading about it day and night, but it seems that someone has made her do some very strong black magic. These women's words have created a new problem in the house. My mother, who was already crying after seeing my condition, said to Hasha, "Hasha, son, I am starting to get scared after seeing Noor's condition. It has been 10 months and the pain has not started. We should immediately show her to a good doctor. The girl is in serious pain." Hasha also immediately supported her and started preparing to go to the hospital, but Noreen Baji immediately intervened and said in a stern tone, "Mom, you don't know, today's doctors are only in the business of making money. They will immediately cut the stomach open and still nothing will come out. This is not a medical problem. I did istikhara last night. Someone did very strict closure and black magic." Hasha and Ami Jan, who had blind faith in Noreen Baji's spirituality, were stunned by her words. Hasha could not avoid his sister's words and the plan to go to the doctor was postponed, and Noreen Baji assured everyone that she would cure Mir Ayla spiritually. The next day, at Noreen Baji's insistence, Hasha took me to a spiritual Baba named Nihad. My condition was so bad that I could not move a single step, but he forced me into a car and took me to an old and deserted area of the city where this Baba had his abode in a narrow and dark room. That place was very scary and smelly. In a dark room, that Baba was sitting. Seeing his appearance made my soul go out. His hair was disheveled, there were strange garlands around his neck, and his eyes were burning like red embers. The strong smell of incense and smoke was spreading in the room. The Baba saw me and heard my whole condition. Suddenly he shouted loudly, "Hey, you fool, where are you taking her? There is no child inside this girl, but a very dangerous and old shadow that is drinking her blood and is killing her from the inside. If you had waited a few more days, this shadow would have killed her completely." Hearing this from Baba, Hasha's face turned pale and Ami started crying loudly. Baba took a clay bowl and put black herbs in it and lit a fire, which produced a poisonous smoke. Noreen Baji forcibly made me sit in front of this smoke. The smell of this smoke was so strong that Mir Asan started to stop and I coughed and fainted. When I regained consciousness, Baba was giving Noreen Baji some paper towels and black water in a bottle. "Take this and mix it with warm milk every night, and keep this black water with her at all times. If she is absent even for a day, this shadow will regain its strength." He would catch him and then no one could save him. Ganoran Baji quickly tied all those things in his dupatta, and gave money to Baba, and brought us all back. As soon as he returned home, my life became a complete hell. Now I had to drink that foul-smelling water and black water day and night, after which my body started burning. I would lie lifeless on the bed and wait for my end. The 9th month had passed and my condition was hanging between life and death. My stomach had become so heavy that even turning over was a torture. My breathing would start to hitch and darkness would cover my eyes. My mother would sit next to me and pray continuously, but now despair was also beginning to appear in her eyes. Hasha also came from the office and asked me. He would sit on the headboard and hold my hand anxiously and say, "Noor, have courage, my dear, just keep drinking this water. Babaji has said that this shadow is very old and stubborn, that is why it is taking time. My heart would break at Hasha's words and I would cry many times and say, Hasha, for God's sake, take me to a hospital. I don't have a shadow. I am in pain. My child is in pain inside. Listen to me. But Hasha would say angrily and sadly, you have gone crazy, Noor. This is your illusion. You have become so affected that you are running away from treatment. Noreen Baji is working day and night for you, and you want to waste their hard work. My last hope was also shattered. One day, my uncle and daughter came to see me. Seeing my condition, they cried so loudly. Oh, my daughter, what has happened to you? I don't even recognize you. I gathered my courage and held their hands and whispered, my dear, please take me from here. Take me to a doctor. Save my child. Auntie, I will die, but Hasha is not listening to me. Auntie also got worried and Hasha and Ami told Jan that her condition is getting very bad. Why don't you take her to the hospital? Hasha was about to say something when Noreen Baji interrupted her in a harsh tone. My dear, you are worried seeing our Noor's condition and this is quite natural. But you do not understand the depth of what Babaji has told us. The shadow on Noor is eating away at her womb. If we take her to the doctor and put a knife on her stomach, that thing will take her life. We ourselves are praying for her life. Chibi Nusrat Baji was impressed by her spiritual sanctity, and she also started advising me to be patient. Daughter, spiritual treatment is going on and we should have faith that Allah will make things better. After the return of uncle and auntie, I had given up all hope of living and had to get out of bed. As soon as the 11th month started, I started having fainting spells. My body was like it was filled with poison and instead of blood, my veins were running with acid. One morning, there was a strange silence in the house. My mother had gone to pay her respects to a relative. Salam had gone to the office and Noreen Baji had also gone to the market on some business. I was lying on the bed in my room when I suddenly felt extremely thirsty. My throat was as dry as thorns. I called out for water, but there was no one in the house. The thirst was so intense that I could not bear it. I fell down and took the support of the walls and came out of the room, barely able to move. As I was walking forward through the lawn, Noreen Baji's room was on the way. The door of her room was slightly open and a section of the wardrobe was also half open. I started passing there when my eyes fell on the open part of the wardrobe where an old khaki envelope was kept under the clothes, from which the same familiar piece of paper was peeking out. Noreen Baji used to feed me milk mixed with it every night. I don't know what came into my mind that I entered her room. My hands were trembling and my heart was beating fast. I took out the envelope from the cupboard and took out a piece of it. It contained a strange black and brown colored powder. As soon as I saw it, My stomach started churning and I remembered all the pain that I had to endure after drinking this powder. My mind suddenly woke up and I understood in a moment that there was a huge stir inside me due to the loss of this powder, that Noreen Baji was feeding me in the name of this spiritual father. Does she want to kill me to death? This fear created a powerful courage in me that only a mother can have. The yearning to save her child made me run straight to the kitchen. I put the envelope down and quickly started opening the spice boxes. The powder was black and brown in color. I quickly took out some cumin seeds and mixed it with tea leaves and started drinking it quickly in a konda danda. My hands were shaking badly and sweat was flowing down my forehead and going into my eyes, but I had to change the pads anyway. I wiped the original pad with a wet cloth and poured it into the pads and replaced it with the prepared pad. I had barely made 3 or 4 pads when I suddenly heard a loud knock on the door. My heart skipped a beat and the pad fell from my hand. Now I heard footsteps coming straight towards the lounge. I was scared and quickly hid the remaining pads and the envelope and left the kitchen and entered Noreen Baji's room. I quickly hid some clothes in the cupboard and all 6 of them. As soon as I returned, Noreen Baji was standing there and started asking me, "What are you doing in my room, and why did you get up from bed? I told you that you shouldn't move too much." His voice was soft. The next moment, the mask of goodness came off her face and she smiled. "Yes, this is medicine and I am giving it to you." She said, "What do you think? I have sacrificed my entire youth for this house and Hasha, and now you want to come and occupy this house. I will never let this happen. I rule this house. Hasha will always be mine. I did not get married, so what happened here? Only my orders will be followed. I will tell everyone in Chechnya." But at that moment, the sound of Hasha and Ami Jan coming from outside came and Noreen Baji immediately controlled herself and started crying. "Hasha, look, this girl is under the influence of a shadow. She has attacked me. She has gone mad." When Hasha saw her sister crying, anger appeared in her eyes. She did not listen to me and said, "Noor, you have gone mad. My sister is praying for your life and you are doing this to her." She grabbed my arm and dragged me to the room. I kept crying and tried to explain to her. I kept trying, but he slapped me and said, "Be quiet, you really have a shadow on you." After that he locked me in the room. I fell in the dark room, and the 12th month was about to start and death was standing over my head. I was imprisoned in this darkness day and night, and one day suddenly I started screaming with severe pain in my stomach. My voice was drowning in the noise of the rain, but luckily Hasha came back home. At that time he heard my screams. He broke the door and picked me up. I said in a weak voice, "Save my child." Then I fainted. He immediately took me to the hospital and the doctors admitted me to the emergency room. From here my story begins. A long and painful time of 12 months had passed. My body had become weak due to these poisonous pills. Hasha was crying outside against the wall, and he was realizing his mistakes. Doctors were preparing for my surgery, and their hands stopped under the influence of drinking and the burden my internal organs had badly affected, and everywhere there was a blackness, and filth it was spread out like a vast expanse. But amidst all this filth and death, there was a miracle of nature that challenged all the limits of medical science. The child was completely alive and safe. A transparent and natural membrane had formed around him that protected him from even a small drop of poison and filth. And right in the middle of the child's forehead was a very clear and shining birthmark, not like an ordinary scar, but in the form of a holy name. It was such a luminous and natural mark that the human intellect was stunned, and it made one want to bow down in prostration. On one side was that poisonous blackness, and on the other side was the testimony of the Lord shining on the forehead of this innocent child, which was proof of his protection. This scene was so strange and heartbreaking that the chief sir, whose eyes spontaneously shed tears, and his mouth uttered the voice of Allahu Akbar with all his might, Subhan Allah. Indeed, Mir Arab is the greatest protector. A nurse also cried and raised Subhan Allah. Indeed, Mir Arab is the greatest protector, a nurse also said while crying, and as soon as he saw it. It is a country poison that has been being fed to your wife little by little for the past several months. The aim was to kill both the mother and the child silently. If we had delayed even a little, you would have taken both bodies from here today. Hearing the doctor's words, the ground gave way from under Hasha's feet, and as soon as his breathing stopped, his mind became numb, and he started remembering all the sweets and the steamed water that Noreen Baji had given him, which he had been drinking as an act of worship. Now he felt like the most cruel and foolish person in the world. The one who had blindly believed in his own sister's outward appearance and put his wife and child's life at stake, he kept pushing me to death with his own hands. He sat there on the cold floor of the hospital, and tears of regret started flowing from his eyes. Just then, he realized this terrible truth. His mobile rang. There was Amy Jan's number on the screen. He picked up the phone, and from the other side, Amy Jan was screaming and beating him. There was a cry, "Hasha, come quickly, my daughter is dead, she slipped and fell from the other roof. My son is bleeding profusely from his head and back. We are bringing him to the emergency room of this hospital in an ambulance. Come down quickly." The phone fell from Hasha's hand, and he ran towards the emergency room like a madman. Nature was taking its toll, and the punishment process had begun. A few hours later, I regained consciousness and found myself in a private room. My beautiful son was sleeping next to me. There were countless tears of regret and shame in his eyes. But before he could say anything to me or apologize, the door of the room opened and the ward boy pushed Noreen Baji inside. She was lying motionless and motionless. Bandages were tied around her head and neck, and my mother was walking with her, crying, her face wet with tears. The doctor shifted Noreen Baji to the bed next to me and took a deep breath and went to Hasha. "See, Hasha Sahib, we have saved her life, but due to the fall from a height, Her spine has been badly broken and the lower part of her body has been completely paralyzed. Now she will be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. The doctor left after saying this, but an apocalyptic silence fell in the room, the silence before a storm. Noreen Bargie's eyes were open and tears of helplessness were continuously flowing from them. She turned her head and looked at me and then at the little child whom she wanted to end before coming into the world, and today she herself was lying in front of him in need. Hasha went forward and told the whole truth to Ammi Jan in a filled tone. Ammi Jan's heart was shaken and the ground gave way from under her feet. She looked at Noreen Bargie while crying and said, "Noreen, what have you done? I thought you were an angel and you turned out to be the enemy of my own grandson. You have broken my trust." Noreen Bargie's voice was barely coming out, and her pride was in the dust. She folded her hands while crying and looked at me and said, "Noor, forgive me, my daughter. How have I been punished? I was afraid that my importance in this house would end and Hasha's attention would turn to you. I conspired against you and your child, but Allah saved you and brought me to a tragic end. Now I am disabled and am left alone. By God, do not leave me alone in this situation. Where will I go?" Hasha said angrily, "There is no forgiveness for what you have done. I am not throwing you out of the house because you are my sister. But now you will not have the status you had before. You will now be confined to your room. I will take responsibility for your treatment and food. But you will not have any interference in the affairs of my wife and child." I held Hasha's hand and motioned for him to be quiet. I took a deep breath and said in a very calm manner,